Alright trips, how are you doing? It's Rob here, and welcome to my review of Dying Light the Following. Now, we completed the game on the 14th of July. Today's date is the 29th of July. And we don't normally do reviews for DLCs or expansions. This will be the first time. It's just, this expansion was actually a lot bigger than I initially thought. All the DLCs that we've played on the channel so far have been between 5 and 10 episodes. And I was actually a little bit reluctant to play it. It all comes down to timing, right? Silent Hill F comes out near the end of September, and I just wanted to go from Dying Light 1 into Dying Light 2. But then when I started to read the description of Dying Light the Following, it intrigued me, guys. Couple of things. One, there was a brand new map called the Countryside, which I was told was bigger than the two maps in the base game. The two maps in the base game was the Slums and Old Town. And this new map in the expansion was bigger than both of those maps combined. And the introduction of a buggy. So I was like, and it continued Kyle Crane's story. Now normally, whenever you play a DLC or expansion, it's like a separate entity. It doesn't really tie into the main story. I was genuinely shocked by how closely tied to the base game this expansion actually was. So I said, you know what, fuck it, let's just play it. And it took us 25 episodes. So it was big. That's about the length of just a standard size game. So what did I think of the expansion? Well, let's get right into it. It was good. I actually really enjoyed it. I'd say that I enjoyed it more than the base game. And I think it all comes down to, like I said previously, the introduction of the buggy. Now, a lot of people, from what I read online, were not happy, right, with the buggy being added because they were like, oh, this game prides itself on its parkour. The parkour system is what Dying Light's known for. It's a DLC. It's an expansion, right? There is no buggy in the first game. There is no buggy in Dying Light 2. So who the hell cares? And I see why they added the buggy, guys, because like I said, the new map, the Countryside, is so freaking big, right? And some of the quest objectives, like you're here on the map and the objective is way over here. Getting there on foot would take forever, and there's just not enough buildings in the Countryside to do parkour. So the buggy was kind of essential. And they didn't just add a buggy. It was fully customizable, guys. The brakes, the tyres, the suspension, the engine, the boost. It was like fully upgradable, fully customizable. It actually I was getting Mad Max vibes from it. If you ever played the game Mad Max, which is, if you haven't played it, you're missing out. Mad Max is a freaking phenomenal game. Rage, if you ever played the game Rage, those are games where you get a buggy and you can upgrade it. You always start off with a really shit model, but then as you progress through the game, you get more parts and you upgrade it. It gets better and better and better until at the end of the game you've just got this beast of a machine. That's kind of what it was like. So yeah, what can I say? I liked the introduction of the buggy, and I loved the Countryside, guys, because the setting of the first game was just in the city. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But me, in real life, guys, I'm a nature lover. I love trees. I love open fields. I love that fresh air. You know yourself, when you live in a city, you don't always breathe in fresh air. But whenever you get the chance to go to the Countryside, the air you're breathing in, okay, once you get past the smell of cow shit, right, it is essentially fresh air you're breathing in, and it's such a big difference. So I loved the new map. I loved the introduction to the buggy. But the story was strange. And in the first game, right, when you focused on the main story quest line, every time you completed a quest, it would give you story progress at the top right. Okay? So the more quests you complete in the main story quest line, the higher that percentage. So if you're at 80%, 90%, you're pretty close to the end of the game, right? You're pretty close to completing the story. But in the expansion, completing side quests counted towards story progress. So it was very weird the way they done it. But let's briefly talk about the story. So with regards to the story, the ending to Dying Light doesn't really tie into the expansion, right? And after starting Dying Light 2, I kind of realised that the ending to Dying Light 1 doesn't tie into anything. But that's a topic for another review down the line. But we continue the story of Kyle Crane, right? So someone from the countryside makes their way into the city, and they're in pretty bad shape, right? They're close to death. And Lena, who was the nurse up at Brecken's Tower, takes this person in. And before he dies, he says to Lena and Crane that the survivors, the villagers out in the countryside, are immune to the virus. And then he dies. Lena turns to Crane and says, listen, if what he says is true, we need to investigate because antizin supplies in the city are dangerously low. Now, for those of you who don't know, antizin is this medication that the GRE created. It's not a cure for the virus, it slows down the infection and suppresses the symptoms, right? So the idea is if you keep taking antizin, you will not turn into a zombie, right? But if you stop taking antizin, you will eventually succumb to the infection and become a zombie. And the GRE stopped making supply drops into the city, and as a result of that, like Lena said, antizin supplies were dangerously low. So Crane was like, okay, fine, let's do it. Let's go to the countryside and find out what's what. So we made our way to the countryside and we came across this village. And the person in charge at this village, his name was Jasir, but nobody in the village was talking to us. They were staying tight-lipped, right? Because to them, we were an outsider. We were a stranger, right? They did not trust us. And that's where the expansion added another cool mechanic, the trust system, right? Where you earn trust XP. Now to earn trust XP, you just have to complete side quests and quests in the main story quest line. That's how you get trust XP. And there's all these trust ranks. So the more XP you earn, the higher your rank will become, right? And the higher your rank, the more likely the villagers will open up to you, right? So it involves a cult. I can't remember the name of the cult. I think it might be Children of the Sun, right? And the leader of this cult is called the Mother, right? And so obviously Crane was like, right, okay, I need to get an audience with the Mother and ask her, why are all the villagers immune to this virus? But to get an audience with the Mother, we need to speak to the Faceless Ones who speak on behalf of the Mother. But to get an audience with the Faceless Ones, we have to increase our trust level or our trust rank. And to do that, we had to help out the villagers. So that's what we did. We done a bunch of quests and we went up several ranks till we earned enough trust to get the attention of the Faceless Ones. Long story short, the cult had access to their own antizin. And that's how, so there wasn't a cure for the virus. They were in the same sort of boat as everyone in the city. But the people in the countryside didn't have to rely on the GRE making supply drops. Like I said, they had their own antizin, right? And it was administered via smoke. Like they had this lantern and they shook it around and all this green smoke came out, and once you inhaled it, you were essentially immune to the virus, and zombies would not attack you. Like, once you were in this green smoke, once you inhaled it, zombies did not attack you. So that was pretty cool. But anyway, we eventually earned an audience with the mother. And boy, oh boy, I was not expecting what happened next. The mother was a volatile. Well, a sentient volatile. She had control of her faculties, her mental faculties during the day. And she developed the ability to communicate with people telepathically. Right, so she was able to speak to us using her mind. But at night time, she becomes feral. And she becomes the version of volatiles that we all know and love. You know, when they spot you, they give chase and they hunt you relentlessly. And when they catch up to you, they pretty much one-shot you. So the mother, her husband was the colonel. And he was responsible for all of these experiments. And those experiments essentially caused the outbreak. Right? But he was bitten. And he succumbed to the very thing that he created. But during those experiments, they came up with their own antigen. Right? Now, I think how it works is, if you inhale this, it gives you temporary immunity, right? Once you inhale it, zombies won't attack you and you will not transform into a zombie. But if you drink this in liquid form, it does something horrendous. It turns you into a sentient volatile, right? So when we went to meet the mother, she showed us what she truly was. And she gave us a choice. And I hate when games do this, when they give you a choice. And this choice drastically affects the ending. So if you choose the choice on the left, because at this point we're inside the dam, which apparently the dam was a secret research facility where all these experiments took place. This is where essentially the zombie virus was created, right? In this dam. So if you choose the option on the left, she takes you over to this failsafe that the military put in case it all went to shit. That failsafe was a nuclear warhead. Crane at this point had the code, and the mother, if you chose the option on the left, the mother would tell you to input the code and the nuke would go off and it would completely destroy Haran and everyone inside it, and it would contain the virus. If you choose the option on the right, which is what we ended up choosing, the mother is not happy with this. So she forces you to drink the elixir. And then we have to fight the mother. So we eventually fight the mother. We take her down. But at this point, Crane is starting to transform into a volatile. He's able to escape the dam, but he escapes at the other side of the quarantine zone. When he gets out, the sun is slowly going down, and he sees a bus in the distance and cars, and he hears people just living a normal life, and he sees a mum and their kid in the swing park having a good time. But as the sun's going down, Crane looks at his hands, and he's starting to turn into a volatile, and then he lets out this big loud roar, and the screen turns to black. Crane has escaped Haran. And that was it. That was how the game ended. I was like, what the fuck? This is what doesn't make any sense to me, right? Because Kyle Crane is not the protagonist in Dying Light 2. But they just released a new expansion for Dying Light 1 called The Beast. That came out like 5-6 weeks ago. So if I had chosen the option on the left, if we chose to blow up that nuke, that would have wiped out Crane and everyone else in the city. So how could there be another expansion featuring Kyle Crane? My guess is the developers did not want us to set off the nuke. The developers wanted us to fight the mother and escape Haran. That makes the most sense. And I'm wondering if this new expansion called The Beast, I wonder if the Beast part is Crane having to deal with the fact that during the day he's a volatile, but he's, like I said, he's got control of his mental faculties, but at night time he becomes feral. So I think at some point we're going to have to play the beast. Maybe that will give me some answers. But yeah, that was the story of the following, and it was actually pretty damn good. I enjoyed it. So as this was an expansion, it was pretty much just a continuation. It just picked up where Dying Light 1 left off. And one of the things that I really loved and was not expecting was your entire inventory from Dying Light 1 carries over to Dying Light the following. Like every weapon upgrade, every skill I unlocked, literally everything. All my accessories, all my valuables, everything that I had on me when I completed Dying Light 1 carried over to the expansion, and I can't tell you how much easier this made things, you know. But not much changed. The mechanics were pretty much the same. The graphics were just as pretty as the base game. But I really did like the countryside. I thought the new map was fantastic. I love trees and all that. And see the way the sun just hits the trees and it creates all these sunbeams. And, oh, it was beautiful, guys, you know. But it was genuinely terrifying at night because, well, it's not like the city where there's lights, right? Very, very hard to see out in the countryside at night time, guys. And when you're out at night, there are zombies everywhere. And on top of that, volatiles. And they can see you during the night, so it was unnerving. The music, the atmosphere, the ambience was all the same. The gameplay was the same, combat was the same. Like I said, you know, they added a new map, they also gave us a buggy, right? And see, once you fully upgrade that buggy, max it all out, and even the customization with the paint jobs and stuff, there's nothing more satisfying than hitting full speed in your buggy and just mowing over zombies. Because another thing they added to the expansion was a separate skill tree for your buggy, right? So to earn driver XP, you know, you need driver XP to get skill points to upgrade your buggy skill tree. So the best way to get driver XP was to just mow over zombies. And there was so many open fields filled with hundreds of zombies, and it's practically an invitation to go into that field with your buggy and mow over as many zombies as you could. So it was so good, guys. But they didn't really add much in the way of, like, the same as the base game, that the main side activity was side quests. There was still volatile nests that you could do and things like that, but yeah, that was really it. But that's not a bad thing, guys, you know. And the characters, you know, we were already familiar with Kyle Crane, you know. At this point, I'm a big fan of Kyle, right? Kyle Crane, we're just going to call him Crane. Big fan of Crane. We never really got to see much of Lena. We saw her right at the start, and she kept in contact with Crane as we progressed through the expansion. But, you know, we had Jasir at the village. He was pretty good. Jasir's daughter, Esge, she was actually a really cool character. Kind of had a little bit of a crush on her, guys. She kind of dressed goth, or kind of, maybe not goth, she was like a rock chick, you know, and I'm kind of into that. And she had a fantastic story, you know. She did not want to be part of the cult. She wanted to escape the countryside and make her way into the city, and we were able to help her do that. But she experienced some loss along the way. Her girlfriend. But yeah, things like that, you know, and some returning characters from the base game. Toga and Fatin, the two geniuses that were just such cheeky bastards, and they treated us like crap in the base game. They played a massive role in this expansion. And believe it or not, at the end of the expansion, they were able to escape the city of Haran. So yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, I mean, that was really it. I mean, a lot of the characters in the following were very minor. There wasn't really any memorable characters as such, you know. But that's fine, you know. The characters that were in the expansion, they did their job. They carried the story along nicely. So with regards to what we're going to give the game for a score, like I said earlier, guys, it was a continuation of the base game. Like, the base game laid the foundation and the expansion built upon that foundation, right? So there wasn't really any major changes. They just added stuff to the game, right? I actually preferred the expansion over the first game, right? I loved the new map, the countryside. I loved the introduction of the buggy. I liked the trust system. And yeah, I thought the story was pretty good. The ending kind of confuses me, but I'm hoping that that confusion will be laid to rest once we eventually play Dying Light the Beast. Like I said, the new expansion that came out for Dying Light about 5-6 weeks ago. But yeah, so the story was good, but the ending was a little bit confusing. So, and the characters were okay, right? The characters they were okay. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to give the following a 9 out of 10, which I feel is reasonable. So yeah, right now I'm playing Dying Light 2, and I am thoroughly enjoying it, but I'm not going to say any more on that. That could change. But yeah. So there we go, guys. Thank you very much for watching this review. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button. If you want to ask me anything, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the expansion below. What did you like? What did you not like? Do you agree with the points that I made? Did you notice anything about the story that I maybe missed? And yeah. And if you guys would like to see more videos like this, subscribe to my channel. And I will see you guys... Well, the next episode is going to be the first episode of Dying Light 2. So I will see you over there.